The silence at Sandringham this summer isn't empty. It's a weapon. Behind those historic gates, no birdsong, no car doors, no laughter, just a cold, calculated roar that the world wasn't supposed to hear. From across the Atlantic, Prince Harry launched a PR offensive, carefully staged, emotionally charged. He played the prodigal son, speaking of childhood summers in Norfolk, of grandfathers and homecoming. He framed it all around one simple request: security. Bring Archie and Lily to see the king, but only if the British state guarantees protection. To the casual viewer, it looked like vulnerability, a son reaching out. But here's where things change. Buckingham Palace didn't flinch. They didn't issue a frantic denial or tearful statement. They responded the way the Crown always does when it wants to end a conversation forever, with silence. And with carefully briefed friends whispering the same message into the same ears. The door isn't just closed. It's deadbolt. Sealed. For good. What happened next surprised no one inside the royal circle. Because this was never about a family reunion. It was a high-stakes chess match, and the Crown just called checkmate. Let's rewind. If you are enjoying this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel Windsor's Insiders so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story. When Harry stood at that microphone, he delivered a masterclass in emotional marketing. He spoke of Archie and Lily meeting their grandfather. He painted himself as a protective father, the UK as a hostile land. But hidden inside that plea was a trap. Grant my security demands, or you become the villain who kept the children away. In any other family, that might work. But the House of Windsor doesn't negotiate through television. Behind the gilded curtains, a different interpretation took hold. And the person leading that charge? Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. The institution's iron fist in a tweed glove. She saw the maneuver for exactly what it was, the Sandringham gambit. Here's where it gets interesting. The palace's refusal rests on three pillars. Control, privacy, trust. The monarchy operates on sovereign autonomy. It does not take orders from someone who dictates terms via press conference. By making his demands public, Harry tried to force the king's hand. Create a narrative where Charles would be the villain if he said no. But the Crown recognized the truth. Granting that request wouldn't bring peace. It would hand the narrative keys to Montecito. Princess Anne has been relentless in reminding her brother. The Crown does not bend to content creators, and then there's the king's health. Charles is navigating an unpredictable period. His environment must be a sanctuary. The palace's view is simple. The presence of the Sussexes is the opposite of sanctuary. Every sigh, every glance, every quiet meal would be mentally catalogued. Not as family memories. As intel. This isn't vague emotional distrust. It's specific. Functional. Cold. The palace no longer believes that anything shared behind closed doors will stay there. Not a health update. Not a quiet conversation between brothers. Not a moment of vulnerability. This conclusion wasn't reached lightly. It was carved from a documented pattern of behavior. The institution has watched with grim fascination as its most intimate details were liquidated for the Sussex brand. Conversations that should have remained buried were broadcast to tens of millions. A father's vulnerable moment with his son, sold in a global memoir, debated in every language, used to frame the royal family as a failing institution. And the first major breach? A private family discussion about skin tone. A tactical strike wrapped in the language of truth-telling, designed to inflict maximum reputational damage. In that context, the summer invitation was never about a grandfather's embrace. It was a search for new material. And this is where the story takes a darker turn. Because while the working royals present a front of stability, Prince William focused on a streamlined monarchy, Princess Catherine returning with quiet grace, Princess Anne clocking more engagements than anyone, the Sussexes are spiraling. The numbers don't lie. Their $20 million deal terminated in 2023. Executives didn't just walk away. They publicly called the couple grifters. Their massive $100 million Netflix deal is reportedly nearing its end, with executives demanding one thing: direct access to the House of Windsor. Without new royal material, the Sussexes have no leverage. Recent Archewell Foundation filings revealed an $11 million drop in donations. Year over year. The charity to content pipeline is drying up because the world has moved on from the victimhood narrative. To maintain their $14 million Montecito estate, their private security, their legal teams, they need constant capital. But the Sussex brand is failing because it has exhausted its only raw material, old stories. The palace sees this clearly. A single week at Sandringham would reverse their financial trajectory overnight. A single photo of King Charles with Archie and Lily would be worth millions in brand equity. Detailed observations about the king's health, his routine, his private temperament. Enough material for a second memoir or a high-stakes sit-down interview. Meghan Markle understands the media market better than anyone. She knows that privacy for the Sussexes isn't a right to be guarded. It's a commodity to be sold. By denying them access, the crown isn't being cruel. It's starving the vultures. But here's where the internal cracks begin to show. Recent court proceedings in Harry's legal battles against the British press backfired spectacularly. Evidence emerged of private flirtatious text exchanges between Prince Harry and a female journalist. Let that sink in. The man who spent years and millions suing the press for privacy violations was using his private communications to court the very media he claims to loathe. This revelation sent shockwaves through Montecito. Sources report a domestic lockdown. Meghan, who thrives on controlling every narrative, now finds herself unable to spin her husband's own digital footprint. The master strategist of disclosure has been blindsided by a lack of digital discipline. The palace's concerns about Archie and Lily's environment are no longer theoretical. How can the king trust his grandchildren to a household defined by scandalous internal friction and a father legally entangled in his own indiscretions? And this is the heart of it. If Prince Harry is the face of the Sussex campaign, Meghan Markle is its undisputed chief strategist. The palace's refusal is, in many ways, a direct response to the Meghan factor. The consensus, led by Princess Anne, is that Harry alone might be managed. But Harry and Meghan together are a corporate entity designed for institutional subversion. The security demand is a transparent ruse. By framing the conversation around physical safety, Harry seizes the moral high ground. He paints the UK as hostile, himself as a protective father, subtly implying the king and the Home Office are negligent. But the palace has seen through the smoke screen. The real threat isn't a physical intruder at Sandringham. It's the digital intruder already inside the family circle. The recording device. The mental notebook. The post-visit briefing to a friendly American journalist. Princess Anne, often called the truth-teller of the family, has been the most vocal. To her and the king's inner circle, Meghan isn't a family member. She's a scout for a rival media conglomerate. Allowing her into a private family retreat during the king's recovery would be akin to inviting a Trojan horse into the citadel. The palace has signaled a very specific, unspoken condition. Harry alone is a different conversation. Charles is a father. He still harbors a flicker of love for his younger son. But the institution knows that Harry cannot, or will not, separate himself from the Sussex corporate strategy. The palace's no is a test. A silent, devastating question. Can Harry exist without the script Meghan has written for him? He is caught in a structural trap. He cannot reconcile with his father without betraying the Sussex project, which relies on his alienation for its commercial value. And it's widely believed that Meghan would never allow Harry to take the children to the UK alone. To do so would be to lose control of the narrative and the visuals of the next generation of royals. Archie and Lily are the ultimate brand assets. Their value lies in their scarcity. The king's current health requires peace of mind. Peace of mind is incompatible with high-attention drama. So Princess Anne and Prince William have formed a protective ring around the monarch. They have unmasked the summer proposal as a calculated ambush, not a loving visit. They recognize that the Sussex media machine needs a new fix of royal proximity to stay relevant in 2026. By denying the meeting, the palace is cutting off the oxygen. The message is clear. The crown is not a prop for your reality show. And while the Sussexes face increasing internal friction and financial crisis, the palace remains a fortress of duty. The Sandringham No is the ultimate expression of institutional authority, a reminder that the king is a father, but first and foremost, he is a sovereign. And a sovereign does not provide the fuel for his own family's destruction. The recent developments in the London High Court have exposed the royal vultures as deeply hypocritical. Harry's flirtatious texts have acted as a hand grenade. For a couple built on the sanctity of their private bond and shared trauma at the hands of the media, this is a catastrophic breach of their own narrative. Harry has proven himself unable to handle the media when the script isn't written by his own team. The scandal has left him paralyzed, unable to counter the narrative of a crumbling marriage and a hypocritical crusade. The palace's refusal is increasingly focused on the environment where Archie and Lily are being raised. The king, advised by Princess Anne, views the Sussex household not as a home but as a content factory currently experiencing a dangerous mechanical failure. Constant legal battles, financial crisis, public marital friction, a toxic atmosphere the palace refuses to validate with an official visit. Archie and Lily are the only fresh royal content the Sussexes have left. By refusing the invitation, the Crown is protecting the children from being used as props in a reconciliation documentary designed to distract from Harry's text message scandal. The Sussexes' demands, framed as a quest for security, are now seen as a desperate attempt to regain the upper hand. They are short-sighted, failing to realize that the more they push for a public win, the more the palace retreats into a defensive crouch. With Archwell's $11 million funding drop and Netflix demanding results, the Sussexes are bankrupt of both money and trust. They need the king's aura to remain commercially viable. Just as vultures circle a weakened animal, they are circling the king during his illness. They are not looking for a father. They are looking for raw material to sell to the highest bidder. Meanwhile, the working royals move with precision. Princess Anne's schedule is packed. Her duty is clear. Her disdain for Sussex theatrics is no longer a secret. She represents the upper hand of service over celebrity. Prince William has successfully unmasked Harry's motives. He knows any peace summit at Sandringham would be leaked to US media within 48 hours. For William, protecting the king's peace is more important than a superficial family reunion. The message from London to Montecito is devastatingly clear. You are no longer trusted as family, and you are no longer respected as professionals. The Sandringham No is the result of a cumulative history of betrayal, now compounded by a fresh scandal that proves Harry is unfit to manage his own narrative, let alone the legacy of the House of Windsor. The vultures are hungry, but the gates remain barred by the very secrets Harry was so eager to sell. As the dust settles on the categorical no for summer 2026, a profound shift in royal power dynamics has become undeniable. For years, the narrative was driven by Sussex truth bombs and media blitzes. But the House of Windsor, orchestrated by the strategic brilliance of Princess Anne and the unwavering resolve of Prince William, has reclaimed the upper hand. They have realized that the monarchy's greatest weapon is not a press release. It's exclusive access, a commodity that Harry and Meghan are now desperately and visibly starving for. The contrast between the two houses has never been more stark. While the Sussexes are mired in internal friction and the fallout from Harry's scandal, the working royals project stability, duty, and relentless industry. Princess Anne has filled the royal diary with a precision that leaves no room for theatrics. Her message is clear. The crown is a working institution, not a platform for grievance. William has positioned the Prince and Princess of Wales as the future, modern, dutiful, and most importantly, silent regarding private matters. This controlled presence makes the Sussexes' constant disclosure look amateurish. King Charles III, despite his health challenges, focuses his limited energy on constitutional duties and his grandchildren through William. By prioritizing the inner circle, he is effectively starving the vultures of the royal aura they need to stay relevant. The palace is acutely aware of the financial crisis gripping Montecito. The Sussex brand is no longer a luxury label. It is a distress signal. To make money, they need to tell stories. To tell stories, they need access. The summer request was never about a grandfather's love. It was a content scouting mission. A week at Sandringham would have provided enough raw material, from the king's private interactions to the household's vibe, to fuel a multi-episode documentary or lucrative tell-all interview. Harry's attempt to use security as a bargaining chip failed because the palace correctly identified it as a ruse. They know the royal vultures aren't afraid of physical intruders. They are afraid of irrelevance. And here's the strategic masterstroke. The palace has shifted focus toward the Invictus Games in Birmingham 2027. This is institutional chess at its finest. By pointing to a date 18 months away, the Crown is demanding a quarantine period. They are essentially telling Harry, prove for a year and a half that you can keep your mouth shut. Then we'll talk. The palace has made it clear that while Harry might be tolerated at a public event like Invictus, Meghan's presence at private family gatherings remains an absolute risk. She is seen as the architect of disclosure, the one who knows how to process information for commercial gain. The Crown wants a total cessation of Sussex-branded leaks. They are waiting to see if Harry can separate himself from the commercial machinery of Montecito, a task that seems increasingly impossible given their financial crisis. The term royal vultures has begun circulating in high-level briefings. It describes a couple that feeds on the carrion of institutional secrets. By denying the Sandringham visit, the king has essentially said, "There is no more food here for you." The palace is betting that without new raw material, the Sussex brand will continue its downward trajectory. As their internal scandals and friction continue to leak, including those embarrassing journalist texts, Harry and Meghan are losing the one thing they cannot buy: credibility. While the Sussexes remain trapped in their short-sighted pursuit of the next headline, the monarchy is playing the long game. The Sandringham no is not just a rejection of a summer holiday. It is the definitive reassertion of sovereign authority. The king is a father, yes, but he is a king first. And a king does not provide the fuel for his own family's destruction. As summer 2026 approaches, the quiet at Sandringham is not a void. It is a fortress. The palace's no has transitioned from a seasonal rejection into a definitive institutional policy. The Sandringham gambit has failed. And in its wake, the royal vultures are left circling a sanctuary they can no longer penetrate. The upper hand of the monarchy is now absolute, enforced by a family that has realized, for the crown to survive, the Sussex content machine must be starved of its primary fuel: royal proximity. The financial crisis in Montecito is no longer a rumor. It is the visible engine behind every emotional press release Harry issues. With no new Netflix hits and Archwell's donations in free fall, they needed the Sandringham 2026 collection. They needed shots of Archie and Lily with the king. They needed the vibe of royal recovery to sell as insider insight. Harry's focus on security was a tactical error. By making it a public demand, he treated the king as a service provider rather than a father or a sovereign. That short-sighted approach proved to the palace that Harry still views his family through the lens of a contractor. While the palace remains a fortress of duty, the Sussexes' private life has become the very chaotic scandal they once claimed to flee. The disclosure of Harry's flirtatious texts has acted as digital suicide for his credibility. The internal friction between Harry and Meghan is now a matter of public record. The palace's concerns about Archie and Lily's mental and emotional well-being are no longer theoretical. They are based on a household currently defined by scandalous friction and a father who cannot handle the media without self-destructing. In the high-stakes corridors of the working royals, Harry and Meghan are no longer referred to as the Duke and Duchess. They are the royal vultures. Opportunists who wait for a moment of physical or institutional weakness, such as the king's health, to swoop in for a content fix. The palace's strategic pivot toward Invictus 2027 is the final deadbolt. By setting a timeline 18 months into the future, the Crown has established a quarantine period. They want a year and a half of zero disclosure. They want to see if the Sussexes can survive financially without selling the Crown. If they can't, if they release another tell-all or behind-the-scenes documentary before 2027, the door will not just be closed. It will be sealed forever. The palace has signaled that Harry's loyalties are his own, but the institution's safety requires Meghan's absence. The risk she represents as the architect of disclosure is deemed too high for any private family gathering. The king is a father who loves his son. But as a sovereign, he cannot provide raw material for a woman who has built a career on unmasking his family's private pain. The Sandringham no is the cumulative consequence of years of betrayal for profit. The distance between the press conference and real change remains an empty chasm that Harry has shown no ability to bridge. Princess Anne and Prince William have secured the king's legacy by prioritizing privacy over publicity. They have proven that the monarchy does not need the Sussex sparkle to remain relevant. It only needs its dignity. As their crisis deepens and their friction consumes them, Harry and Meghan are learning a brutal lesson. The crown is not a prop. You cannot dismantle an institution on Monday and expect a holiday in its sanctuary on Friday. The palace has spoken through its silence. The answer is no. Not maybe. Not later. No. The king's peace. The children's stability. The institution's mystery. These are the iron shield that the royal vultures cannot pierce. Harry needs to make a choice. Is he a son or a brand manager? Until he can answer that without a Netflix contract in his hand, the door at Sandringham will remain deadbolt. The family will remain divided. A reality created by the very disclosure Harry thought would set him free. The vultures are still circling, but the king's sanctuary is finally, firmly, out of reach. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story.